Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fantasy Table brought to you by the Blue Stable. Tonight we're going to be talking about, is it panic time? Is it time to hit that button? I know I've been getting so many questions about one person in particular. Obviously, it's on the thumbnail, so you know who it is, Kyle Pitts. But yeah, and Theo is going to go over some of his takes last week on what went well and what didn't. But Theo, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Schoolwork picking up, but I'm here. I love doing this. I make time for it. So I'm always excited for this part of my day. The graphic that you made, the thumbnail, that's funny. It reminded me of Nemo touching the butt.
Yeah. Don't touch the butt.
Like
Don't touch the panic
both
button.
the both the players got like one finger or one fin on it.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta say, I happened to find like those two pictures, and I was like, "Oh, this is so perfect. I gotta do this. Gotta do this." Either way, yeah, um, yeah. There's a lot of panic going around. Even though it's only 2 weeks in, I get back to back underwhelming performances does kind of raise a panic button for you, especially this early in the season and where you drafted these players. But first of all, we're going to go into the news and notes section. Trey Lance is out for the season with an ankle injury. So unfortunate for him because he's worked so hard to get in the starting role from Jimmy Garoppolo, and now Jimmy Garoppolo is just right back in it. I guess it's a good thing that the Niners ended up restructuring his contract and keeping him because probably going to take this team back to the playoffs with how weak the NFC is.
Yeah, I have 2 points I want to make about this. One of how I believe Trey Lance actually would have been considered a panic button candidate if he was still healthy. And I would also believe that he would start figuring things out later in the season since this is his first year starting. I would have came in and said, don't panic, just let it play out. Let him figure out the system. Shanahan's, it's only 2 games in, and you got like 15 more games for the fantasy season. So, if you make it to the championship, but it's it wasn't too much of a worry, especially with the week 1 game in the monsoon. And the second point I wanted to make is the 49ers offense is a lot easier to figure out now with Jimmy G in. It's the same one as we had last year. I mean, I without Debo running the ball as much as he did, but it's going to be the same thing. George Kittle might make a comeback this week. Not so sure about it. He was at WWE Raw event instead of playing on the field, but that's besides the point. I'm excited to see some clarity in that offense.
Yeah, and speaking on your second point there, I think it would be a good idea to try to buy low on Brandon Ayuk right now. Um, Brandon Ayuk was like a top 20 wide receiver last year in the second half of the year, whenever he was out of the doghouse and whenever Jimmy G was playing. Um, Brandon Ayuk looked great. And I think that he has a chance to be that again this year, especially if Kittle is to miss more time. Debo is probably going to run the ball maybe more now because of all these running back injuries. I'm not.
He's going to join the list then.
Yeah, he might end up joining that list of getting hurt, and if so, hey, Brandon Ayuk even better. So, but yeah, to me, I'd try to buy low on Brandon Ayuk because he doesn't have as high of a price tag as Debo Samuel, and he still might get the most targets from the wide receiver spot. Mike Evans is suspended 1 game because he took an absolute shot to Marshawn Lattimore once again. I feel like those two guys, like anytime they play, it's just so fun to watch. So fun to watch.
Yep. Make note of the next Saints game. The Buccaneers play. I don't know what week that is,
I
but
don't know what
make
we'll
note
see.
of it because you might want to bench Mike Evans if this happens again. So
Let's see. Next time they play is week 13. So
that's right before playoffs.
yeah, I guess it is right around
So
that
maybe
time.
you might need him in the lineup if you need a win.
Yeah, you got to hope that he doesn't do that again and get suspended again. Justin Herbert has a fracture to his rib cartilage. He is considered day to day. Man, I saw so many tweets from that game where they're saying Justin Herbert was giving him Andrew Luck vibes, which it kind of is. He's just playing that hero ball, hero QB, and he's just getting absolutely like just crushed by it. Um, I hate to see it. I hope he stays healthy for the NFL's sake because he is just so fun to watch. So
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't get as bad as Andrew Luck, where he was peeing blood. But
yeah,
I mean, it was cool to watch, but it's scary. It's scary as a fan. It's scary as a fantasy manager. It's scary as a human being watching a guy who's already fractured his rib cartilage, a part of your body that's meant to protect the ribs, go out there again and then continue to get hit in the pocket and making throws.
I tell you
It
what, he
was
made that one like crazy dart down the field like right after he came back in. That was just insane, like
that's
insane of a
yeah.
throw.
I was
Insane of a
aw-
throw if you're fully healthy, but
I mean, that's just the natural talent that he was given.
mm-hmm.
But hopefully he stays healthy from now on, and that rib cartilage heals up pretty soon.
Yeah, James Conner left with an ankle injury. It's not expected to be serious or miss a long period of time. He actually did practice Wednesday, so there's still a chance that he comes back out. I know we mentioned Darrell Williams in our waiver tweet thread. I still think that he might be worth a stash because James Conner is known to have health issues, and um, he also is getting older, so more risk of injury. But yeah, Darrell Williams still worth an ad to me if you have an open bench spot. But Jerry Judy is considered day to day. He did not participate in practice on Wednesday. Dalton Schultz had a PCL injury. He is considered iffy for Monday. Even if he does play, I probably am not playing him. Like if you
Yeah.
got if you got Irv Smith off the waivers this week, I'd play him over him. Tyler Conklin, I might play Tyler Conklin over him even.
I
Just
mean, you
like
got CD Lamb with Cooper Rush. CD Lamb's already leading the team in target shares still. He's got, I think it was like, I saw some ridiculous number for him, but hopefully I'm right on this. I saw like 32% of target shares were to CD Lamb. That is, I'm
that's an
like,
elite number, yeah. Well, I mean,
that
he
is
got 11
a,
targets, so I don't. Let me see how much Cooper Rush is done.
but as you
Yeah,
look that
he threw
up,
the he threw the ball 31 times, so he had over a third of the targets.
it's just, he's definitely a buy low candidate for teams that that are in your league, of managers that aren't quite paying too much attention to that stuff. So they see, like, you could convince them that, hey, you got Cooper Rush in there for about like 3 or 4 more weeks. You're really gonna risk have to play CD Lamb for that long. I mean, they're gonna hopefully they take the bait, but that CD Lamb is definitely someone who's continuously getting production and volume and will do so once Dak gets back.
I gotta say, he's going to keep up that target share probably whenever Dak comes back. But another guy that you need to check your waivers for that to stash is if Michael Gallup is available. It seems like he's trending to play. Um, like I know Noah Brown's actually been producing quite a bit in this offense for some reason. So if he is producing, then that means Michael Gallup will probably produce whenever he gets back because Michael Gallup is a lot more talented than Noah Brown.
Yep, Gallup. He's my highest exposure in best ball drafts. Like whenever it was just a player, I saw Michael Gallup appear on the screen. I was like, I'm gonna take him next round because I
He's
know
so
he's gonna be
talented.
back. Yeah, I mean, he's big. He's a good contested catch wide receiver. He's definitely a great red zone target for Dak once he gets back, and Cooper Rush if he needs any help with that. Uh, it's just now you got him for week 3 and on for the rest of the season. You got him in the eighth, ninth round. That's a steal on that offense.
Some even later. Like I know that league that we were co-manager in because I was taking photos on draft day. Like we got him what in like the 11th round or something like that. Crazy. Like it,
Yep, I
it
I saw. I was crossing my fingers on him falling, but glad he did.
yeah, we got him in the 11th, like end of the 11th round. So
Ooh.
that's just so nice. TDP, Ty Davis Price, had an high ankle sprain, which is typically a 4 to 6 week injury. So, what was a guy that was going to be the hottest waiver pickup of the week now is once again hurt because he's a 49ers running back. Marlon Mack got signed onto the active roster because of this, and Tevin Coleman, the guy that never dies, is back on the 49ers on the practice squad.
Yeah, I mean Jeff Wilson was was the guy last week, um, for for most part,
Well,
and
TDP still got 14 carries.
yeah, that's true. I was mostly talking about like just fantasy production
Right,
wise. I
right.
mean, on the field, yeah, it was more split back. Jeff Wilson is now going to be the guy along with Debo Samuel, probably. It's still, I wouldn't invest too much into this 49ers backfield. We saw it coming into the season. They're a risky group. They're continuing to show that they're a risky group. You have players that are continuously rotating within the lineup. It's with Jimmy G, you might find something a tad more consistent since it's not going to be Trey Lance scrambling or having any designed runs. It's still not as productive as I would want it to be and has the potential to be. They really need to find that one solid guy paired up with like a pass catching back, something like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have, and they just don't have that. It's hard. It's going to be hard for me to play any of those running backs in my
Like,
lineups early on
I tell you
until
what
I
would be perfect is if the Browns traded Kareem Hunt to the Niners. Oh, that would be the like dream scenario right now. Absolute dream.
because Kareem Hunt is just Debo Samuel willing to play running back.
Yeah.
So I mean, of course, he's not as talented as after the catch or not as talented as he is as a wide receiver. He's just a guy who's willing to play running back and in that role. So that would be a dream scenario. They need a guy like Kareem Hunt for sure.
And I mean, if they think their Super Bowl window is now, I think they should try to do that, honestly, because it's like Kareem Hunt doesn't really want to be in Cleveland right now. He wants that new contract and stuff like that. So why not go to the Niners where you get a fresh scenery? You'd definitely be running back. But yeah, as Theo said, it's such a boom bust running back room. Like if you have Jeff Wilson, congratulations because he's probably the running back one. Outside of that, I don't really want to invest in anybody else. Like Jordan Mason and Marlon Mack. Like Marlon Mack might end up being the running back two for now, and Jordan Mason sticks with the special teams. Or Jordan Mason's just a young new guy that with upside that happens to do something. But
And who's
if
to say that stays the same by week 6?
right, right. And it's like who knows when like any of these running backs come back from their injuries. It's just a mess. Is what it is. Michael Pittman, thank goodness, is expected back this week. The Colts really need him. Like, this is why
Mm-hmm.
you drafted Michael Pittman where you did, because it shows that they need him. Like, they are going to give him the ball. That's why he had like a 30-some% target share week one. Like, Pittman is that alpha in that offense 100%.
Yeah, and I can't even say like because the next upcoming games against the Chiefs, I can't confidently say like, oh, the Colts are going to be down, so they're going to be pass heavy. They put up 0 points against the Jaguars. I know it's without Pittman, but like even if they pass too much, I have no idea how that offense is going to be doing against the Chiefs next week.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really know anything about the Colts, it seems like, because like there's
Look at
so
your
like
room. It's
there's
just
it's
plastered with Colts material and
I
just
know it's unfortunate.
memorabilia.
Like, can I? Oh, that's too close. Can't really. But yeah, it's crazy. Zach Wilson is in position to start week 4. So RIP all those Garrett Wilson people that just got him on waivers. And yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I like Zach Wilson, but I think that it's more fantasy friendly when Joe Flacco is starting because I mean Joe Flacco has thrown the most passes this season.
That's crazy because I said the complete opposite, like heading into the
I
season.
gotta say, I remember that conversation. You're
I was like on the football field, Joe Flacco is more wide receiver friendly, but in fantasy, it's gonna be Zach Wilson. Joe Flacco. I know like the two games he played against was the Browns and was it the Ravens week 1? I believe so.
yeah
But Browns had a really good pass coverage team last year. Ravens did not. He's still like third in the NFL in passing yards. Joe Flacco is,
yeah
and
yeah. The top three in
it's so
passing yards
weird.
is such
It's
a
so
well. I mean, it's like whenever you look at the leaders in passing yards, you got Tua, you got Carson Wentz, and you got Joe Flacco. Like just how everybody expected.
mm-hmm.
So since we seem to have a trend of putting funny stuff in the news and notes, we actually got 2 this week. The first one is like I thought this was a fake account when I first saw this, but PointsBet is refunding everyone that had a Russell Wilson MVP bet. They said because he was doing so bad to start the season, they're refunding everyone. And not only are they refunding everyone on their own platform, they are refunding everybody on every platform. They said if you send them a screenshot, they will give you free bets on their platform, which
See,
is crazy.
this is brilliant marketing strategy, but it's also absolutely hilarious. Like the Broncos are playing so bad. They can't do anything on offense. And they're just struggling so much. And you have Nathaniel Hackett, you have people releasing articles about how Hackett was originally hired to be bait for Aaron Rodgers, and they didn't get Aaron Rodgers, so they went to Russell Wilson's consolation prize, and Hackett didn't have anything planned for Russell Wilson to be his quarterback. So this is why you have this whole mess. It's unbelievable. It's like no one predicted this. Not even Vegas predicted this. They all thought that it'd all be cohesive, and it's been nothing but except for a little bit of Javonte Williams.
Yeah, which I mean, Javonte did pretty good week 2 here, but that offense is just weird because it's like there's so much talent that it's just like it's just all over the place, and it's. I think that's the problem was is that you hired a bunch of coaches and coordinators in positions they've never been in before, and it's just a long learning process for all of them.
It's a I wish I bet on Russell Wilson MVP just so I could get my money back.
I know, I know. I was just like, I thought about it because I was like, man, like he's going like we've seen all these new quarterbacks on new teams just like succeed really well. I was like, might be worth it, but then I was like, nah, I don't really like it that much. I
Feel
like
bad for
Josh. I like Josh Allen way too much to bet anybody else for MVP.
Oh, for sure.
Um, this one is the worst ever.
Oh, this
But
one is bad. This one is
which
bad.
this quote is taken somewhat out of context, but the fact that it is still a quote is ridiculous. Arthur Smith said, "We're not playing fantasy football. We're just trying to win." Whenever he was asked about Kyle Pitts' involvement, and it's like, well, you're 0-2. You're not throwing to Kyle Pitts, and you're 0-2. Asking why Kyle Pitts isn't involved and saying we're trying to win. Maybe you should get Kyle Pitts involved. Like I've seen so many people make the joke on how the Falcons spent a 4th overall pick on a decoy. And it's like, I mean, it just seems true. It's like, I forget what it was, but I know I saw somewhere on Twitter, they said that there's so many plays where Kyle Pitts isn't the first read. And it's like, how are you not designing plays to get the ball to this man? Because he posted like there's a reason why he's the fourth overall pick. He was drafted over Jamar Chase. He was drafted over Jalen Watt. Like there's a reason why this guy had one of the best rookie tight end seasons of all time. And you're just not giving him the ball.
Fourth overall pick, one of the best tight ends we've seen come out in the last decade. And you're putting him on blocking snaps. You're putting him as the second, third read to a Falcons offense. I know Drake London's been playing phenomenally.
I gotta say, it's nothing against Drake London because he's great. Like, there's a reason why he's a top 10 pick too. But
hold on. Okay, I just got a call for someone.
All right. but
yeah, Drake London, he's receiving all these targets from Marcus Mariota. I love the fact that Mariota is using his wide receivers on the Falcons, especially London, as he was drafted to be that go-to guy right away in that system. But for Pitts to be limited from this offense production-wise, and they're not really drawing up plays for him, maybe it's not that you're playing fantasy football and you're trying to win games. Maybe you should just throw to one of your best players on offense. Maybe then you'll start winning games. I mean, I'm not a head coach. I'm not a guy that's designing plays. I would get absolutely cooked if I went out there and did Arthur Smith's job. But it's just 1 + 1 = 2. Like, you involve your best player in the offense, you score more points, you win games. That part about it just doesn't make too much sense for me.
Yeah, it makes like zero sense at all. It's just like, how do you not like your team? Like the team investment in him is like so high. Like I get you're a rebuilding team, whatever, but it's just to not even try to utilize him is insane. Which we'll talk about him more later on.
We'll talk about, yeah, for sure. I want to go to going back to my takes that I made last week on last week's episode, where I did bounce back players, players that have repeat bad performances, players that would repeat great performances, and players that might be trending down. It's going to be a quick review, so I'm just going to start getting to it. Bounce back players, I had Daniel Jones and Marquise Brown. Those are both misses. Daniel Jones finishes QB 19, I believe. Marquise Brown did score more points than he did week 1, but he finished lower in the wide receiver rankings. He was wide receiver 26 week 1, and then he dropped down to wide receiver 30 this week. That's just an indictment of how well the wide receivers have been playing across the whole league.
Yeah, and it's also like unfortunate because like even though it was a miss, like he still got 11 targets. So it's like he was involved in more in the offense. It was just they didn't get a touchdown because like if he had a touchdown this week, I'm sure he would have been fine. But it's just
yeah. I mean, the 11 targets, I think in half point PPR he finished with 11.4, which is like, I mean, you're not going to be like punching air and kicking rocks over, right? It's not like if you had him in your flex or you had him in your wide receiver 2 spot, that's just a very average performance, but I expected him to bounce back into a wide receiver 1 type of role, and he didn't do that, so I considered that a miss. But I understand if some people don't. It's whatever. I'm kind of harsh on myself. But the repeat bad performances, I had Derrick Henry and Cole Kmet. Both of them hit. Derrick Henry, inefficient as any running back in the NFL, and Cole Kmet scored a grand total of 0 points, which was not fun. I don't know.
Very much ripped that hot take.
You had Cole Kmet. That's true. That's true. That take. Oh man, but you have Cole Kmet on the panic button segment, so I'll let you talk more about him. The repeat great performances, I had Carson Wentz and Gerald Everett. Carson Wentz hit. He was QB3 week 1. He finishes QB5 this week. And Gerald Everett did 2. Since he was technically a tight end 1, he finishes tight end 11. and his point total was separated from the tight end 6 by 1 point. And that just goes to show how bad the tight ends have been. I mean, you've had a tight end in these first 2 weeks that's been considered a tight end 1 and scored less than 10 points. It's basically Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, and
I mean, Everett's 4 on the year,
and
so
yeah, I mean, like, but like Everett, he also finishes tight. And it's just like the point differentials between tight end 3 to tight or like tight end 4 to tight end 11 is like 4 points. It's so bland in that position group. It almost makes me so like want to make note of this next year of not to invest into tight ends so highly. I mean, like, except for like Kelce or Andrews, like, just like write down those two names, Kelce, Andrews, maybe Waller, but I'm not too sure about him next year. I know he signed that extension, but Kelce, Andrews, only two tight ends that are worth drafting early next year. These tight ends are washed.
I feel like in the fantasy community we have this same conversation year after year after year, where it's like draft season, like, oh my gosh, this tight end has so much potential. This tight end has so much potential, and then it's just like you see how bad it is again, and it's just like to me, I went into this year and I was like, I'm either getting Kelce, Andrews, or Pitts, or I'm waiting
No,
until the very end. Which I know Pitts like isn't doing great, but it's like those were my three guys at the top that I was taking if I got a decent discount on them, or I was just waiting until like the last few rounds, until like the double digit rounds. And it's just like almost showing me that I almost don't want to spend a draft pick on a tight end. Like just wait for waivers and see like
like
which one's
Everett.
in a good position. Yeah, it's like because I mean, what Tyler Conklin was probably on waivers. Irv Smith might have been. Gerald Everett probably was on waivers, and it's like all these guys are getting targets and stuff like that. It's just tight ends are just so not worth like those mid round draft picks compared to the running backs and the receivers you can get in those areas. Because it's like I've seen like Dallas Goddard go in the same like range-ish as like a like Drake London, and it's just like I would much rather have Drake London than I would Dallas Goddard.
And Dallas Goddard, actually, he's been one of the more consistent tight
Yeah,
ends too. I
he's
mean,
been good too. It's just tight end position is awful.
yeah, scoring like 7 points week 1 and 10 points in week 2 is nothing compared to. It's not even reaching what Drake London got last week.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
continuing on, uh, I'm trending down players. I had Ravens wide receivers and uh James Robinson. I expected Xavin Howard to lock up whoever he was shadowing, whoever he was covering, and Rashad Bateman scored like a 50-yard touchdown against him. Like Xavin Howard was following him the whole route. Bateman caught it, dusted him, scored. That's a miss. Bateman and Lamar Jackson, that connection and that offense is going to be fun to watch all year. I'm excited. Bateman's a gopher. Go Gophs. Uh, but yep, I missed on him. Should have never doubted on my man. And James Robinson, I mean, he did his production was pretty solid. Um, it was too eye opening. He did score that touchdown that sort of put him on that miss for me, and where I consider myself to be wrong about him. But I'm not gonna play the if game and where like if he didn't score a touchdown, he did score a touchdown. He was used as a player to score a touchdown, so you can't really discredit that. Um, so if you're tallying it up, I am 4 for 8, 50%, perfect coin flip. Just how fantasy football should be.
Which I mean, yeah, that's honestly not bad for how random fantasy football is. And like James Robinson, like I was not expecting this whatsoever coming
No
off
one
Achilles
was.
injury. Like Travis Etienne being hyped up so much. Like he is doing amazing. I'm super glad because like he deserves it for becoming like an undrafted free agent, like going crazy. The team kind of was crappy with him by drafting a first round running back yet. So I'm like super happy. It's just absolutely crazy that he's doing this.
And you know what's also odd about it is that I'm seeing some fantasy counts still say to sell James Robinson. So like even if they were wrong about James Robinson, as a lot of people were, they're now saying like, oh, he's in an offense. He's founded his role as an early down back. Travis Etienne is going to be getting most of the pass work in the third down. The goal line situations and scoring isn't ever going to be too consistent. You can't really trust him. So after 2 weeks, his price is going to be the highest it is. And I recommend selling him, which are all good points. But the goal line and scoring touchdowns is so far is what's making or breaking James Robinson. And we've seen players and running backs sort of carry on that throughout the whole season where the running backs like JT. I mean, I know JT was a higher draft pick last season. I think he was like top 2 rounds, like third round ish. But he went on that streak of just scoring like 13 touchdowns in
Like
a
James
row.
Conner too.
I think
Austin Eckler.
James Conner, Austin Eckler. Who's to say that James Robinson isn't in that role, or in that situation himself? It's based, I guess you have to go by a gut feeling with James Robinson and whether if you want to keep him or not.
Yeah, I know like people are still like worried with Travis Etienne there, but it's like to me, you've seen the usage. Like James Robinson had 50% of snaps week one and 60, almost 2/3 of the snaps week two. Um, they still like James Robinson. They want to use him. To me, it's like James Robinson and ETN is a poor man's Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Um, I mean, that's basically what it is whenever it comes down to it. But
That's fair.
it's to me like I still like James Robinson for this year, and you can maybe sell him, but I don't think you can sell him as high as you can get him. I'd much rather try to sell Travis Etienne because he has that higher name value and he's performing worse than what James Robinson is.
I agree. And if you sell James Robinson and he ends up being one of those players that scores a touchdown in the next like game, like for the 8 straight games, you're going to be beating yourself up for that. But let's say you keep him and he scores like the next 3 games, he scores 8 points, 7 points, 9 points, doesn't score in the next 3 games. I mean, I don't think he's definitely going to score in the next 3 games. But if he doesn't, that's still like 7, 8, 9 points a week. You can't be too mad at that, especially in the round in which you drafted him.
I
So
gotta say, some people got him off of waivers, so it's like because some people didn't think he was going to play like at the beginning of the season. So
yeah, and the people that drafted him, you drafted him for that reason, for the upside. So why not play him for the reason why you drafted him? Unless you drafted him to sell him and hope that he gets the upside and you can, okay, I have enough running backs. If James Robinson somehow explodes, I'll have too many running backs and I'll have to sell one. If you're going off that strategy, it makes sense to sell. But if you're just going off based off upside, keep them.
okay, so would you sell James Robinson for like Miles Sanders?
Wait for next week. I know I messaged you about this
Yeah,
on players that potentially might explode next season again. Oh, not next season, next week. And Miles Sanders used one of them. Spoiler alert. Um, hmm.
but I mean,
I
James Robinson has a good like stretch of games coming up here. Like he has the Chargers this coming week, then he has Philadelphia and Houston, which are both great matchups for running backs.
James Robinson or Miles Sanders. Gut feeling says James Robinson, but ever so slightly because Miles Sanders is in such a such a great offense, and he's been producing in that offense. Um, I don't like James Robinson. He's just got that touchdown upside. I mean, that's you got the Eagles offense have so many other targets that they like to go to in the red zone, and you have
Sanders just looks so good, though. I've been
he
impressed.
does.
I've been very impressed by him so far.
Yeah, that's a very tough choose one.
I gotta say, that
So
was the first name that came into my mind, and I was like, man, that's actually pretty close on who I'd pick.
I might change my mind and say Miles Sanders after this episode, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have one more thing that you wanted to talk about here?
Um, oh yeah. I know a lot of people had questions about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I don't have that many followers, so I don't know how many people are going to see it. So if you're watching this, I'm going to be dropping a Clyde Edwards-Helaire thread of his stats, his production, sort of a situation of what he's in right now, and whether if he can carry that on to the future. Um, Not necessarily to say you should sell him or to buy him. It's mostly to give you the information available, like just readily available to you, and make the decision yourself. And because I just find him so intriguing this season, along with Miles Sanders, that these are players that were duds and looked down upon heading into this season, and now they are having a resurgence. So I'm gonna be dropping a thread on that soon. Check it out. Use the information as you will.
Yeah, no, I mean, CEH is such a weird place right now because he's produced, he's looked pretty good. It's just can he sustain it?
That's the
I'm,
big question.
yeah,
Yep.
I gotta say, I'm really interested to see how this thread is. But yeah, while we're talking about it, make sure to go follow us. I don't know which side it is yet. I still haven't checked, but it's on the left side of your screen, whichever side that is. Go follow all of our Twitter accounts. We post waiver ads on Tuesdays, and we are going to be posting our start sits tomorrow, or not tomorrow. Well, yeah, Friday, I guess that would be. So Friday. And yeah, I think it's on to our panics.
Panics.
Oh, it's 2 weeks in, but is it time to panic on these players? So I was looking through like a bunch of these players, and like whenever I was like trying to find wide receivers, there was no really like top drafted wide receivers that really gave me a big reason to panic on, which just
Fair.
shows how good like these receivers are, like how much safer they are. Um, like running backs obviously are higher upside for your team and stuff like that, but it's the wide receivers that just like the mid tier wide receivers just produce so much better than what mid tier running backs do. But either way, let's go ahead and just get us started with everybody's favorite panic player of the year, Kyle Pitts. Wow. Kyle Pitts was drafted easily as a top five tight end, normally top three. And he is currently tight end 35 whenever there's 32 tight ends or 32 teams in the league. So he's not even a top 32 option right now, which is absolutely ridiculous. I know he's been consistent. He's had like the same stat line back to back weeks, but it's been for absolutely nothing. To me, I am not panicking on Kyle Pitts. He is still the most talented tight end like of all time. He's still running routes as a wide receiver. He is still running a lot of routes on Mariota dropbacks. His snap his percentage is so high. I'm holding on to him just mainly because like how we talked earlier, the tight ends in like this year are just nothing. Like, would you rather like? I'd much rather take the chance of Kyle Pitts having his blow up game than going out there and starting a Tyler Conklin. Like, I mean, the just like the production value in between like what Kyle Pitts is giving you and the tight end you're getting off the streets really isn't that much to outweigh the risk reward to me.
Yeah, and if you have Kyle Pitts, you most likely picked up a tight end on the waiver wire this week because you expected week one to be okay, first game, not so bad. Week two, this is why he's in the panic button segment, right? And I am a firm believer in going out and buying Kyle Pitts because
Nice.
I feel like there are two extremes to the Kyle Pitts fandom in fantasy. One is on the low end and where they're just so disappointed and sad. They weren't really like the biggest Kyle Pitts guy coming in, but they saw how highly he was ranked and they're just down and out about him. And then you have guys like me who have this odd belief in that, okay, he has been on the field for this many times. And as I mentioned before, he's not necessarily been the top target or Mariota's top target, but he's on the field at least. He's not like on the sideline doing nothing. He's running routes. So if you believe in him kind of going out there doing his thing, getting into a rhythm, finding passes from Mariota, breaking him off to big yards, keep him or buy him. You most likely would rather try buying him off of a guy that sort of is giving up on him and is looking for another average tight end, but a better wide receiver running back. So if you find a guy like that, definitely go after asking for a trade because having Kyle Pitts on your team with not that high of an asking price is definitely worth the risk.
Like I know I've gotten people asking me like I know I've heard like friends, family, stuff like that that have like talked to me about Kyle Pitts, and some people have been saying they want to drop him, which is oh that just like set me off. But it was like people want to drop him, some people want to trade him for like basically nothing. Like they told me the trade deals that they were offered, and it's absolutely like just horrendous deals. Um, so yeah, I am all in on the buy low. Like I am looking. So last year, Mark Andrews, week one, 3 receptions, 20 yards. Mark Andrews, week two, 5 receptions for 57 yards. He ended up as a tight end one by a long shot. Kyle Pitts can still come back. Kyle
Only
Pitts,
2 games.
only 2 games. It's only 2 games. There's such a long season to go. Tight end position is one where you want talent and you want opportunities. Like, there's no way the Falcons are going to keep going, throwing the ball to Brian Edwards and Daryl Hodge as much as they do with Kyle Pitts. Like, I am all in on trying to buy Kyle Pitts now. If I don't have Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, um, like if you can, like say you have Darren Waller, I would try to trade Darren Waller for Pitts and like a low end like guy, like running back or wide receiver.
I never really thought about it like that. I always thought about like you, like me in the position of having the mediocre tight end, wanting to get Kyle Pitts. I never really thought about it as downgrading to get another player onto the roster. That's
See, I don't necessarily see it that much as a downgrade because like while
that's
Waller
fair.
has
Yeah.
produced more, he is still in an offense with Hunter Renfro and with Devontae Adams. Um,
Yeah. I just meant like downgrade as in
where they're
point
at right now.
totals.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they're at right now.
But like Waller is one of those guys that I would probably try to sell high currently because it's like, yes, he's still seeing some production, but I don't know if he can sustain this all year long. That deal. And
That's
Kyle,
fair.
like, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this, but Kyle Pitts is just so talented that you can't like just give up on him this early. Like Arthur Smith surely is going to figure something out because it's like Arthur Smith was on the Titans coaching staff whenever Marcus Mariota and Delaney Walker were there producing like 1,000-yard seasons. So I'm not losing hope yet. Like if he still is getting nothing by like week 6, then maybe I'm hitting the panic button. But I'm not there yet. I'm trying to buy
Meanwhile, all Colts fans are hitting the panic button on every position possible after 2 games.
everything. It like doesn't matter who you
That's me digressing. I had to get that off my chest.
are. So our second player is Derrick Henry. He is currently running back 38. I was out on Derrick Henry at his price tag this year. I didn't draft him anywhere. I'm sure glad I did now. This one I am not totally panicked on, but I am definitely having a bit of panic for him. Just because like his age, the injury, the Titans offense doesn't look the same without AJ Brown. Though Treylon Burks is starting to look pretty good. Like they're starting to get him more involved. He's producing. But it just the Titan offense looks pretty gross, which I understand. The only nationalized television game was against the Bills, and the Bills are just ridiculous this year. But I don't know if I have much faith in Henry going forward.
I have said this before, not on the show, but one thing I hated about the talk surrounding Henry heading into the season was the age, was the 28-year-old running back. And so many people are scared of. I myself was like, you've seen so many people call Derrick Henry the most athletic, biggest built running back in NFL history like they've ever seen. They haven't seen like an athletic specimen quite like Derrick Henry ever. And you're saying that magically at the age of 28,
Just all disappears.
all that's just gonna go downhill. I was like, no way. No way. And I was like, I know he wasn't the most efficient guy and he got hurt last year, but he was still holding that volume and he was still going at that speed. Like, I mean, not after the injury, of course, as we've seen these first 2 weeks. So, but now to see this is like him being one of the most inefficient backs in the NFL. I mean, I know a lot of people are gonna say that, oh, anybody could have saw this coming. I mean, I didn't. I thought Derrick Henry was gonna be going back into that role and feeding off that volume and still being the top 5 running back in fantasy. Not as efficiently as you want him to be, but just because how much opportunity he has. And he's not doing that. He's playing on this losing Titans team and he's not finding ground anywhere. So right now, I'm personally gonna hit the panic button, but I want to keep this in mind with anybody that's viewing. Remember what Derrick Henry does in November and December. That's all I'm gonna say. And if he does not repeat that this year, I am officially out on Derrick Henry for the rest of his career. I cannot draft him in any league, but you have Derrick Henry for one reason, and it's for that late run, phenomenal stretch of fantasy football points.
Yeah, and I know I shared this with you earlier, Theo, but Dave Kluge on Twitter, great follow. He posted a tweet about rushing yards over expectation, and Derrick Henry is currently leading the league by having 46 yards below expectation. Like that is not good. I know I saw some tweets last year saying that you could start to see the decline because like his rush yards over expectation per carry was one of the best for in the NFL for a while until last year. It was actually like very low compared to the rest of his seasons, which is part of the fact that he was on a record-setting pace of carries. But you're seeing it again this year to where he's just not exactly the same. But yeah, I'm with Theo. I'm hitting the panic button, but I'm not like crazy worried because, like Theo said, we've seen what Derrick Henry does late in the later parts of the years.
Yeah, and I'll add this: hitting the panic button right now. Sell him everywhere you got. Try to sell him, and if you can't sell him, keep him for the rest of the year. Don't try selling him in week 12 or whenever your trade deadline is in your fantasy league. It's too late by that point. And then you just got to hope that he pulls off one of those miracle winter runs that he's been doing.
So let's say, would you sell Henry for James Robinson, for example?
I got both of them on my home league. That's fun. Um, no, I'm keeping Henry over James Robinson right now. I feel like, especially in the playoffs, and I know how he's been that late in the stretch. I'm trusting that as my RB1 over James Robinson, what he is right now.
Okay, fair enough. I think I might go Robinson, honestly. Uh,
Really? You would go Robinson over Henry trading for?
I don't know how this can get a whole lot better for him, to be quite honest.
That's true. I mean,
Like
yeah, I can understand that viewpoint.
that's just me though. Like I can totally understand people seeing him come back. I personally am not believing in it because I wasn't a believer in it this season to begin with. But I can still understand where people would still want to.
Yeah, and my last point I'm gonna make, um, even I was a believer in Derrick Henry heading into the season. I hit the panic button, but according to PFF, Titans have the third best run blocking group in the NFL. I mean, things might get better. I mean, you have such a good group that I mean, you can't take
Taylor
PFF's
Lewan did
word.
get hurt this
Yeah,
past week.
and you can't take PFF's grading system to heart on every situation, but it's definitely a piece to the puzzle that you have to consider when measuring Derrick Henry and how you kind of view him in the long run. But that's a lot of talk about Derrick Henry.
Yeah, we're Colts fans, not Titans fans. Let's keep moving on here. So my wide receiver that I was able to find that would be a panic button candidate is Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is currently the third highest scoring Commanders wide receiver. He is currently wide receiver 29. Man, as long as Curtis Samuel stays healthy, I think I'm hitting that panic button because Curtis Samuel seems like the guy.
Yeah, is it bad to say that for Terry McLaurin, there really is no panic button for me? Like it just doesn't exist. I had him ranked at so I mean I rank my players as like my favorites, sleepers, players that I'm fading. I had Terry McLaurin ranked at wide receiver 27 and fading. Now I'm not trying to pat myself on the back for this. I just thought other wide receivers were going to perform better than Terry McLaurin was going to be doing with Wentz. I didn't
Well, I gotta
expect
say,
Curtis
especially where that
Samuel.
ADP was at, like,
Yeah. I wasn't expecting Curtis Samuel or Jahan Dotson to be better than Terry McLaurin. I just thought that offense wasn't going to be too friendly for wide receivers, and apparently it's not friendly for just Terry McLaurin. So, I mean, for me, I guess it's hard for me to view it in a point where somebody had Terry McLaurin ranked high, like possibly near the early 20s rather than the late 20s. But I would, I'm gonna go off the line and just say I would not panic on Terry McLaurin because I don't like Curtis Samuel has had his injury history. So you also have to take that into account. And Carson Wentz, I mean, there's a lot at play, but I wouldn't be mad at you if you hit the panic button and tried selling him.
yeah, I just think that his name value at this point outweighs the production you're going to get from him.
Agreed.
Um, Carson Wentz has been throwing a lot of passes just because of the games that they've been in. I don't foresee them throwing like this much the whole season, and it seems like Curtis Samuel is the more favored target. But yeah, I have no problem holding on to him, but he's like a white panic button for me, like, because it's like I also had him ranked as wide receiver 26, so it's like it's not that big of a difference right now. It's kind of around what we were expecting, but yeah.
Man,
Next,
Carson Wentz and Curtis Samuel. That's interesting.
yeah, it's
Finally
something.
having his playmaker. But anyway, let's go to the next one.
Should have been Paris Camp. It's not. Just wasn't meant to be. Yeah. Next up is everybody's biggest panic button after week one. Cam Akers. Um, Man, this is a tough one for me. Based on where you drafted him, it's definitely a panic, but you're holding on to him. He's currently the running back 58, but it is more hopeful that this past week was more of a 50-50 split than it was a like 85-15 split week one. So I definitely think that they're trying to get him more involved. I still think it's going to be a pretty even split between him and Henderson, but yeah, I'm not exactly panicking on him.
Um, everyone week one was like and that's like everyone on Twitter was panicking over Cam Akers week one. Week two, I saw no talk about the Cam Akers panic. It's definitely died down. You can pull your hand away from pressing that button, watch it play out. Because if you panic right now and you sell him, what are you gonna get for him?
Right.
You're not gonna get anyone as valuable as Cam Akers could potentially be in 3 weeks.
Like if Henderson goes down, like Akers shoots up.
Yep, and he shoots up back to that. Probably not as much as high as his ADP was, but he will be valued just below it, I'd say, especially on that Rams offense. So I'm after week two and what we've seen, how the Rams adjusted their offense, I'm not gonna panic on Cam Akers. I'm gonna let him sit, let him marinate, find his role in that offense, give him 2-3 weeks at most. Probably like by week five, you should really get a grip on how he will fit in that system and how he'll fit on your team. So if you already have enough running backs by week five and Cam Akers is still in that split backfield, just sell him. A lot of people's minds will get changed and realize what he's supposed to be valued.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. These next two guys I'm pairing together because they're on the same team, but Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. Currently wide receiver 127, tight end 387 respectively. I'm cutting both of them. Like I am hitting that panic button. So, yeah, there we go. Panic buttoning so hard. I'm cutting both of them. I'm dropping them straight off. I'm not even bothering trying to trade them because I don't think anybody wants them at this point. The Bears passing offense is horrendous. Like I understood like not passing that much week one because you were in like a monsoon, like you were in a swimming pool basically. But to have less passing attempts week two whenever you're down the whole game is insane. Uh,
What was it like?
what is
Justin
it? 18
Fields.
pass attempts this year, I think.
Yeah, Justin Fields has like what, like the 30. How many? I forgot the stat that I saw. Stat Muse posted it on Twitter. It was like Justin Fields has however many pass attempts in the year.
28.
He's yeah 20. It's ranked 34 out of 34. Like it's ranked 34 in the NFL. There's 32 teams in the NFL. It's he's not. The offense, a pass offense, looks so bad.
They
Man,
they've completed 15 like passes. And I'm pretty sure what Cooper Cup has near 40 or whatever. Like
that's just
it's
above 50%, right? That's that, right? My math's off the top of my head.
what was it, 28 and 15? Yeah, so it's right around there.
It's not
Yeah,
good.
Cooper Cup has 24. Cooper Cup has almost as many receptions as the Bears have passing attempts. Like
Komet is a
it's
drop. I feel like Komet is a panic. Mooney, just because he's a wide receiver, I feel like it might get better, but
okay.
you're gonna be
Would you
so down.
rather would you
I'll let
drop
you.
Yeah, would you drop Mooney for Garrett Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm feeling like we're at though. It's like I'm willing to drop him for one of these like wide receiver waiver wire guys. Like I'd drop him for Michael Gallup. I'd drop him for like
Hmm.
a number of these running backs as well. But yeah, it's it's rough. Okay, would you drop him for Jacoby Myers?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Jacoby Myers is another underrated guy. I know whenever I
Agreed.
was looking it up that he was under 50% owned in leagues, and he's getting like a 30% target share. Like the numbers just don't add up there to me.
Even
Same with
if,
Sterling Shepard.
yeah, even if Darnell Mooney starts getting passes from Justin Fields later on in the season, it's like he's never going to be anything more than a low end flex play. No matter how desperate you are on your fantasy team, you can find someone better on the waivers, and his ceiling is going to be low end flex. You and if he's your low end flex player in your fantasy league, you better be playing in a 16-man league, or else you're losing. You're not winning the championship. I'm sorry. Breaking news. You're not
Breaking
winning
news: playing
anything.
playing low opportunity
Playing
player
the wide playing the wide receiver 127 will not win you the championship in
will
your
not
league.
help you out. Yeah, I mean, like at the point that we're at, I feel like I would just drop him just because there's so many players with way higher upside out there. The way it is, like I'd drop him for like even like a Raheem Mostert. Like even though I don't like Raheem Mostert, I still would rather have him because he has higher upside because he could be like a starting running back in the offense. But
Wait, would you drop Mooney for Jordan Mason?
that is tough. I feel like I would. I feel like that's the point where I'm at, panic button wise. Like,
Jeez.
just absolutely, just because like Mason is young, like he could have like Jeff Wilson, like he looked good, but he didn't have that juice that like a younger player could have. I'm not thinking Jordan Mason could really beat anybody, but it's like at this point, I want my back end bench cloggers to be at least somewhat high upside because it's like if I don't drop Darnell Mooney this week, I'm dropping him next week. And I would rather have the higher upside shot with Jordan Mason than I would knowing a guy that's going to maybe get like 3 targets.
Man, from like top 40 wide receiver in most people's rankings to this.
It's insane because it's like we were projecting like this offense to at least be like upper bottom half maybe in pass attempts, and they're just
Not.
bottomed out. Like I just like I have no words to even describe these offenses that bad. Our last panic button guy is Russell Wilson. Let's ride out the
No, let's
door.
stop. Yeah, let's stop the train.
Let's ride out the door because, gosh, that offense looks bad. You obviously drafted Russell Wilson as your quarterback one. Um, to me, I'm probably hitting the panic button just because there's probably better options out on your waiver wire than what you got right
I
now.
mean, you heard my reaction. Oh, sorry. You can continue. I didn't.
Yeah, no, I was going to say like if some reason, some way Carson Wentz is still out there, I'd take Carson Wentz over Russell Wilson. Like Tua, I'd take Tua over Russell Wilson.
Oh, how hard was it for you to say that?
it, it's anytime I have to talk about him in a positive way on this show, it's hard. Like it's not that hard because like I do like Carson. Like I was one of those people that I wouldn't have been upset if we kept him for a second season. I know some people were like I would have been fine seeing him for a second season just to like see, but either way, that's long done. But yeah, like would you? So would you drop Would you drop Russ for who was the big guy this past week?
Well, just a little background.
Yeah,
I would also
there you
hit the
go.
panic button on Russell Wilson. You heard my reaction before uh, about the points bet refunding him for MVP. It's he should not be QB 16 heading into week
He's
3.
QB 18.
Oh, that's what I meant. QB 18. He should not be QB 18 heading into, or QB 16. Like he shouldn't be anywhere near that heading into week 3. His opponents were not the greatest opponents. I mean, he had his chance. I
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about Hackett and how they just look so unprepared for these games. I
Plus, with to me, with Jerry Judy being hurt too, like that's just where I'm full out. Like,
and
like
him not doing anything with Sutton. Like Sutton is sort of slowly fading away into the abyss of obscurity. It's the offense is it hurts my head, except for Javonte Williams. I'll
it's
continue to
bad
say
whenever Jameis Winston with a fractured back has scored more fantasy points this year than Russell Wilson.
did you find the player that you wanted to hypothetically drop for?
No, I did not. Let me see. No. Oh no. Oh, Jimmy G. That's what I was thinking. Would you rather have Jimmy G or Russ?
I feel like you're gonna hate me for this answer, but I'm gonna go Russ.
I mean,
I'm
I
gonna
don't hate
go
it. I think that they're really
okay.
close. Um, I
They
lean
are.
Jimmy G just because if George Kittle does come back, which I mean, there is a chance that he does come back this week, I just like that offense more for Jimmy G, especially since he is used to it. And Kyle Shanahan has a lot better play caller than what Hackett is.
Oh, for
I,
sure.
I
And
do.
I had somebody DM me about picking up Jimmy G, or I think the question was Jimmy G or Goff. And I said, Jimmy G, he's new, right? I mean, he wasn't starting quarterback this season, but he's now entering, so he's on people's radars now. So that's why he's new. Um, but we've seen what he did with the same exact 49ers team last year. So I mean, without Elijah Mitchell, but and Debo Samuel playing a very slightly different role. We know what he's gonna do. We know what he's gonna do. We know how he's gonna produce fantasy wise. You can look back in the last season and see he wasn't like a QB1, but he was definitely a streaming option. And I feel like Jimmy G's become a streaming option again. And would I put Russell Wilson in that same category as a streaming option QB? Not quite yet. And that's why I'm avoiding the panic button on Russell Wilson right now. But he definitely like by week 5 or week 6, if he's still QB 18 in points or QB 15 in points per game, yeah, he becomes a streaming option and he becomes a player that sits as a QB1 and you look for a trade candidate to kind of solve that issue and take in one of your running backs or wide receivers for a QB, which in non super flex leagues hurts a lot, but you sort of need those points and where the QB can reach like the above 20 points per game. It's not Russell Wilson. I don't think he might do it like twice or 3 times this season on how well they've been playing or how bad they've been playing.
Yeah, it's insane to me. Like I wasn't as high on Russell Wilson as a lot of people were, but still, to me, this is pretty shocking with the weapons that he's had. Like, I know there's multiple leagues that I got Jalen Hurts after Russell Wilson, and I'm so glad for those people that took Russell Wilson above Jalen Hurts because I mean Jalen Hurts was kind of a my guy this year. Like I was drafting him everywhere, and I'm glad I did. But
Yep, I'm looking at my rankings right now. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts were 2 of my favorites. I had Trey Lance as one of my favorites. Unfortunate, but you can't really predict injuries. And then I had Russell Wilson as my QB 13. So that's 5 rankings below or above what he is right now. My QB 18 was actually Tua.
Yeah. 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 But to me, like, I know he's mentioned, like, he's not exactly like a streaming quarterback, or he shouldn't be. But I mean, if you're looking at it at this point, like, he kind of is. Like, at
Yeah,
quarterback 18.
if you remove his name from the stats, he's a streaming quarterback.
Right.
And it's so hard for me to remove that new Russell Wilson, new Broncos offense. Sort of hard to get that context out of my head, as I imagine it is for a lot of Russell Wilson owners right now. But gotta be objective as possible. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard life for Russell Wilson fantasy owners and Russell Wilson himself, probably. Actually,
Right.
probably not. He's living in that most expensive mansion in
That is true.
Colorado, so he's living large. He doesn't have our problems.
So I just want to throw this out there, but some names that have scored more fantasy points this year than Russell Wilson.
Everyone.
Daniel Jones has scored more fantasy points.
That's my bounce back player.
Jameis Winston,
I could see that. That's actually pretty realistic because of how he plays the
Baker
game.
Mayfield.
Austin's gonna love that one.
Yeah, Austin likes that one. Marcus Mariota.
You see, that's an interesting one because you'd think that it's because of his rushing, but it's not.
Mhm.
He hasn't ran the ball all too often. It's only on his passing. So that's a good one.
Yeah. And then also Goff and Joe Flacco, but that's because they passed so freaking much this year.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, I'm pretty sure we are going over an hour, even though we didn't want to. That's the reason why we aren't doing the starts and sits. But either way,
we have too much fun talking about.
I gotta
this.
say, there's so much to talk about to fit it into one episode and still keep it under an hour. But I mean, I hope everybody's still here watching. If you are, thank you. But yeah, I think we better close it off here before we keep rambling too much.
Yes.
Because I feel like we could talk about this all day long. Because I know I could.
Yeah, I could too.
But anyways, thank you all for watching. And make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, keeps the algorithm going, keeps us in more people's inboxes in the recommendeds. Go follow us on Twitter. We are, like I said, we are posting waiver pickups and start sits on there. But yeah, good luck with your week 3 matchup. I hope you're not, I hope nobody's 0-2 in here. I know I am in a couple leagues. Unfortunately, this past week, I played against the top scorer in 2 leagues, and I was in the top 3 of scoring. Like that is big sad. Like insane.
Yeah, that's my least favorite thing in fantasy, which I mean, I know now leagues are incorporating the points for system, mm-hmm. and where that's what playoffs are organized. They're organized by points for, and then no, they think it's head to head, then points. I don't know how it's
I know some leagues they do, like if it's a 16 playoff, they'll do 5 teams by record and the last team by the highest score that did not make it.
That's smart.
Which I think is a very good option to do. I like that just because there's so many weeks like how I had where it's just random and you score a lot of points, but you don't score the most. And so that's why you lose.
All right. My close off. Good luck, guys. Week 3. If you're a Cole Kmet truther like us two, we're feeling it, but
we have as many fantasy points as Cole Kmet does, so feel good for yourself.
Yes, rename your team after Cole Kmet. 0-2.
But yeah. Anyway, guys, until next week, have a good week. Enjoy some football. Thursday night football tonight with the Browns and Steelers. Such a good matchup. Not really, but either way, yeah. All right. Have a good night, good day, good morning, whenever it is you're watching it. And goodbye.